Back to the channel. Today we're going to unravel some incredibly complex events in Genoa. Rumors are circulating around the Newman family, but what's the truth? In this video, I'll summarize the plot points that will be revealed in the next episode. Stay tuned to see what happens. Welcome back to our channel, passionate fans of Genoa City. Today is a truly beautiful day to delve into the gripping, heart-stopping drama that is currently tearing our favorite families apart. We have some incredibly intense and emotional updates regarding the Newman dynasty that you absolutely will not want to miss. Let us step directly into the shadows and uncover the shocking truths together. The sterile, blindingly white corridors of Genoa City Memorial Hospital have become the stage for a catastrophic psychological thriller, a suffocating purgatory where the Newman family waits in agonizing suspense. Nikki Newman, the enduring matriarch and the beating heart of the Newman Empire, is currently under the knife, enduring a high-stakes, life-threatening surgery to remove a malignant tumor pressing mercilessly against her optic nerve. The ticking of the waiting room clock echoes like a death knell, each second amplifying the palpable, suffocating fear that grips the room. The air is thick with unspoken terrors and the ghosts of past traumas, as the family grapples with the terrifying possibility that Nikki might not survive, or worse, that she might awaken to a world plunged into eternal darkness. Blood ties are being tested to their absolute limits as the minutes drag into hours. What dark, irreversible consequences will this agonizing wait unleash upon the fragile psyche of the Newman family? As the agonizing hours stretch on, a terrifying storm begins to brew within Victor Newman. The usually composed and ruthless CEO finds herself crumbling under the crushing weight of her mother's mortality. As she paces the sterile floor, a chilling realization washes over her, piecing together the fragmented clues of the past few weeks. She remembers the relentless pressure, the toxic manipulations involving Matt Clark, and the devastating stress that Victor has systematically piled onto Nikki's fragile shoulders. Victoria's sorrow rapidly morphs into a blinding, righteous fury as she recognizes that her father's insatiable thirst for control is the very poison that exacerbated Nikki's horrifying condition. A crazy, unprecedented decision begins to form in Victoria's mind, a rebellion that threatens to shatter the Newman legacy forever. Will Victoria truly dare to cross the point of no return and wage a catastrophic war against her own father? The tension finally erupts into a spectacular, violent confrontation that shakes the very foundations of the Newman family. Unable to contain her boiling rage, Victoria turns her blazing eyes upon Victor, launching a verbal assault that leaves the entire waiting room in stunned silence. She furiously accuses him of being the architect of Nikki's suffering, screaming that his toxic machinations, his dangerous games with criminals, and his suffocating need to dominate every aspect of their lives have pushed Nikki to the brink of death. This is not just a disagreement. It is a brutal, unexpected betrayal from his most loyal soldier, a daughter who has finally seen the monster hiding behind the patriarch's mask. Victoria draws a line in the sand, declaring that Victor's reign of emotional terror must end immediately. How will the great Victor Newman respond to this unprecedented, venomous uprising from his own flesh and blood? Victor Newman stands frozen, a titan momentarily brought to his knees by the sheer ferocity of his daughter's rebellion. Behind his stoic, stony facade, a chaotic tempest of shock, fury, and deeply buried guilt begins to rage. For decades, he has justified his ruthless actions as necessary measures to protect his family, but Victoria's piercing words strike a nerve he cannot ignore. Yet, the Black Knight does not easily surrender. His shock quickly hardens into a cold, defensive fury, viewing Victoria's outburst as a treacherous betrayal during their darkest hour. The relationship between father and daughter fractures violently, leaving a chasm of resentment and broken trust that may never be healed. As the battle lines are drawn right outside the operating room, one must wonder, will Victor's stubborn pride ultimately cost him the love of his entire family? The bitter warfare is abruptly halted by the heavy, squeaking swing of the surgical doors. The lead surgeon emerges, his face a masked canvas of exhaustion and solemnity, instantly drawing the fractured family into a tight, breathless circle. He delivers the news that the massive, invasive tumor has been successfully extracted from Nikki's delicate optic nerve, a surgical victory that prompts a collective gasp of relief. However, the surgeon's tone quickly darkens, dropping a chilling caveat that extinguishes their fleeting joy. The trauma to the nerve was catastrophic, and the prognosis for her vision remains terrifyingly uncertain. The surgery was merely the first brutal battle in a long, grueling war, leaving the family standing on the precipice of a terrifying unknown. What horrifying reality awaits Nikki Newman when she finally opens her eyes? Inside the dimly lit recovery room, the monitors beep in a steady, haunting rhythm as Nikki Newman slowly drifts back to consciousness. Her mind is a foggy labyrinth of pain and confusion, but the true horror sets in the moment she attempts to open her eyes. Heavy, suffocating bandages wrap around her head, but even beneath them, she senses an oppressive, absolute darkness that defies logic. Panic, raw and primal, claws at her throat as she realizes that the vibrant world she once knew has been entirely erased, replaced by a terrifying, endless void. She reaches out blindly, her trembling hands grasping at the empty air, her voice cracking as she calls out into the terrifying blackness. The emotional devastation of this moment is profound. A tragic fall for a woman who has always commanded every room she entered. Will this suffocating darkness break the indomitable spirit of Genoa City's most iconic matriarch? The medical team rushes in, their voices a muffled symphony of clinical terms that offer little comfort to the terrified woman in the bed. They gently explain that while the tumor is gone, her vision has not miraculously returned, plunging Nikki into a state of absolute despair. The doctors caution that the recovery process will be agonizingly slow, requiring months of intensive, grueling physical and neurological therapy with absolutely no guarantee of full restoration. This diagnosis of darkness is a devastating blow, a cruel sentence that forces Nikki to confront a future stripped of her independence and visual grace. The silence in the room becomes a heavy, suffocating blanket, pressing down on the family as they digest the horrific reality of her condition. How will Nikki navigate a world filled with unseen enemies and hidden dangers while trapped in this vulnerable state? In the face of this catastrophic tragedy, Nick and Victoria rally around their mother, becoming her fierce, unwavering pillars of strength in the dark. Nick, silently battling the agonizing demons of his own fentanyl addiction, pushes his excruciating withdrawal symptoms aside, desperately clinging to his sobriety to be the son Nikki needs. He holds her trembling hand, his voice a soothing anchor in her terrifying new reality, while Victoria stands guard like a fiercely protective lioness. Victoria's earlier rage toward Victor has now solidified into a cold, protective barrier around Nikki, determined to shield her mother from any further emotional distress. The siblings form an unbreakable united front, their shared grief binding them tighter than ever before. But with Nick's addiction secretly clawing at his sanity, how long can this fragile facade of strength truly last? Despite the venomous confrontation with Victoria and Nikki's previous explosive rejection of him, Victor Newman refuses to be banished from his wife's side. He steps into the dimly lit room, his presence a heavy, undeniable force that instantly shifts the atmosphere. Though his heart aches with profound disappointment that the surgery did not yield the immediate, miraculous results he demanded, his dedication remains terrifyingly absolute. He stands silently in the corner, a brooding sentinel watching over the woman he has loved, hurt, and controlled for decades. Victor's persistence is a complex tapestry of genuine, agonizing love and a twisted, obsessive need to oversee her recovery, proving that he will never truly let her go. Will Victor's overbearing presence ultimately aid in Nikki's healing, or will it push her further into the depths of despair? As the days bleed into nights, Nikki's struggle within the darkness becomes a profound psychological torment. Stripped of her sight, she finds herself haunted by the ghosts of her tumultuous past, the whispers of her historical battles with alcoholism echoing loudly in the silence of her mind. Every sound is magnified, every shadow a potential threat, leaving her feeling utterly exposed and defenseless against a world she can no longer see. She grapples with a devastating loss of identity, mourning the powerful, independent woman she once was, while fighting a daily, exhausting battle against the creeping tide of depression. The darkness is not just physical, it is a suffocating emotional prison that threatens to consume her very soul. Can Nikki summon the legendary strength that has helped her survive decades of trauma, or will this be the tragedy that finally breaks her? Just as the suffocating despair threatens to become permanent, a miraculous, breathtaking moment pierces through the gloom. During a particularly grueling therapy session, Nikki suddenly gasps, her hand flying to her bandaged eyes as she perceives a faint, indistinct shift in the darkness. It is not clear vision, but a minuscule, blurry silhouette, a fleeting glimmer of light breaking through the endless void. The room erupts into a chaotic symphony of tears, gasps, and overwhelming joy as Victoria and Nick realize what has just happened. This tiny, almost imperceptible sign of improvement becomes a monumental beacon of hope, a profound testament to Nikki's resilience and the medical team's efforts. Will this fragile sliver of light continue to grow, or is it merely a cruel, fleeting tease of a cure that will never fully arrive? Fueled by this miraculous glimmer of hope, Nikki throws herself into her intensive physical and neurological therapy with a ferocious, unparalleled determination. Every day is a grueling, exhausting battle of endurance, pushing her body and mind to the absolute limits as she fights to reconnect her brain to her damaged optic nerves. The therapy is a brutal gauntlet of pain and frustration, filled with setbacks and tears. But Nikki refuses to surrender to the darkness. Her family watches in awe and agony, witnessing the raw, unfiltered courage of a woman fighting for her life and her light. Yet, as she focuses entirely on her recovery, the dark conspiracies and hidden betrayals of Genoa City continue to swirl dangerously around her. What sinister forces might be plotting in the shadows, waiting to strike while the Newman matriarch is distracted by her arduous battle? On the surface, the Newman family presents a beautifully united front, a fortress of love and support dedicated entirely to Nikki's miraculous recovery. However, beneath this polished veneer, the foundation is cracking under the weight of explosive, unaddressed secrets. Victoria's simmering hatred for Victor remains a ticking time bomb, a silent war that threatens to detonate at any moment. Nick's agonizing secret battle with his drug addiction is pushing him closer to a lethal edge, a tragedy waiting to happen right under their noses. Furthermore, Victor's ruthless, ongoing machinations involving Matt Clark and his AI manipulations continue to cast a dark, poisonous shadow over the family's fragile peace. Can the Newmans maintain this delicate illusion of unity, or will their toxic secrets inevitably explode and destroy everything they are fighting to save? As Nikki Newman continues her heroic,